bottom memory stitch helps hold the channel effect from the top down. Doesn't always work on all fabrics. Works only on full working operational draperies. Don't recommend on unlined shears with Euro hem bead weight. Reason, if the fabric is brittle or light weave, the stitch of the memory stitch pulls and breaks the thread, leaving a pucker. Best used on 3 to a 4-inch double hem. In this demonstration, it will give you an idea on how to sew and apply the bottom memory stitch. However, this job is unique as a drapery had a finished length of 134 inches. However, the usable fabric length was 118 inches, as it was railroaded goods and the customer wanted the stripes vertical. Solution was to add extra fabric along the bottom by making a double hem of 23 1/4 inches. This would place the horizontal seam and the hemline to line up with the molding of the window. This would give the effect the seam was supposed to be there, as an effect. To start out marking for a bottom memory stitch, what you want to do at the very top, you want to have your marks for your pleats. If you notice, I'm starting right here. The 1.5 is our return, and then the number 1 is our pleat, space, pleat, space, pleat. What we're going to do now is we're going to fold this down to the bottom. Just going to line it up. Okay, we've got the top lined up with the bottom. And now we're going to go ahead and mark the bottom. And what she does, she uses this tack gun. This is the easiest and best method. She's basically going to tack exactly where a pin is.
You can also
or the other method is to use pins. And the problem with pins sometimes? Snag. These tack also help with folding. And you want to do this all along the bottom till the end of your drape. Now when you're tabling, if you notice, this is a big drape, so she's going to unfold it and then return to tabling the drape, and then she would refold it down and mark them.
Our drape is now pleated. We're getting ready to memory stitch. So we're going to come up here. I have it figured out already, but if you don't, your memory stitch is going to be a little bigger than your space size. So you want to make sure all your space sizes are the same. So I put a tape on my ruler. Now we're going to go down to the bottom. Okay, if you remember, when we marked the pleats, we came down, we put little dennies. And what I'm going to do now is put the dennies together, and in the middle of that, which in this case has a stripe, which makes it easy, but usually you won't have that. And I'm going to put a pin in there to hold it together. I'm going to go along, put the dennies together, and that gives you the middle of your pleat. And I'm going to pin all of those. Because this drape doesn't have a 4-inch hem, I am going to mark where I'm going to connect it. So my strings are going to be 4.5 inches up, so I want to come up 2.5 inches so that it doesn't hit the floor. So I'm going to come up 2.5 inches from the bottom all the way across.
Now that is where the tab is, right? Or where your pin is. Where your pin is. Okay.
This is where we're going to connect the tape. Connect them. I'm using a disappearing ink.
Ready?
I'm using a heavy industrial upholstery thread for this because it's very strong. On this one, I'm going to start on the return. Sometimes when the installer gets there, it's too tight and it'll break. So I go through twice, and then I'm coming back. This is very delicate fabric, so I have to be very careful with it. So I'm just going to put a knot there. These strings I'll cut off later. So now we're ready to memory stitch. So I marked my ruler. I don't know if you could see that. I mark it with a tape because it's easier for me. So I put this here, get a nice tight thing, and I mark it with invisible ink, with disappearing ink. Then I find my spot that I marked 2.5 inches up. Since this is a sheer, I want to make sure I don't get too big of a bite. So I have my finger under there and I can feel when the needle hits it. Because I want a tiny little stitch. If it was a regular cotton fabric, it wouldn't matter because it wouldn't show. So I'm going to pull it tightly up to that mark. Then I'm going to go through again. I'm not going to catch the front because I've already caught the front. Then I'm going to go through again just to double knot it so that it doesn't move around once it's hanging. So we don't need that pin anymore. So I'm going to continue this all the way across. So there's my little dot, 2.5 inches up. I'm going to go in there, make a tiny little stitch. I have this string doubled. Can't wait to see what this is going to look like when it's hanging. I did them different. I don't. Helpful hint with this nylon thread is to just give it a light press so it doesn't want to tangle up on you. That's all. Okay, we're going to start a new thread. So we're going to go where we had the last thread. And we're just going to do a simple knot. I'll go back and get that thread later.
But you're not going through the fabric at all.
No.
Just tying it onto the knot.
So we're do that. And you just keep going. And that's how you memory stitch. Now on this one I forgot to mark my thread, but that's okay. You can just put it in there. You can measure it after it's there. I always mark it because I can't see it. So it's, you know, if you forgot to mark it, it's okay. Okay, I put that there. One last thing you got to remember, and that's when you're all done, go back and cut all the dennies out, because the installers will leave them in because they don't know what they are. If you have pins in there, take the pins out. This is our overlap. Now, as you see, we have a denny there, so we're going to use that as our last connect point. Now I'm going to do it the same size as I've been doing all the rest. I'll go up 2.5 inches from that denny. There's that denny. I don't know if you can see it there.